Hello guys, in this video I wanted to clarify some misconceptions surrounding Houdini and the proceduralism and how people view it. When you see preview or tools of making houses with a slider and you see them changing the number of windows and things like that, that's great, that's very powerful, and that's something Houdini does. But what people do not see is that you can use Houdini to create non-procedural things. You can use it to create, let's say you have a specific design, you have a specific house that you want to create. You can create that house and that's it. You will have all the flexibility of proceduralism that Houdini offers, but you will not be able to freely change a slider and everything updates. And all those previews that you see take a lot of time to update between each slider hit. It's not just live extending the geometry, and we're going to understand why. And we have to think about creating a solution to the problem, to the specific problem that we have. For example, if we were tasked to create a specific building, we would want to create that building as fast as possible with the least amount of control to get the result done. But if the problem was to create a building generator, then we would need a lot more time to design a solution. And all those procedural things that you saw takes a lot more time than to create than doing one or two buildings. Now again, Houdini is going to automatically offers all the proceduralism for us, but I'm gonna explain why it's very hard to make something fully procedural and create something that create a tool that creates houses and things like that and have it be interactive. So I'm gonna create a geometry node. I'm gonna dive inside and I'm gonna create a grid. And while doing this, I'm going to also show you guys a few things. Now, let's say we want to create, leave everything but the exterior. Okay, I'm going to change it to primitive mode, select, and I'm going to select a drag and drop to select all of that. I'm going to hit delete. And this is going to create a blast node. Now, each of these primitives have a number. Let me expand this and show you those numbers. If we click here, you can see each primitive has a number, and that's how Houdini refers to them. Cool. So this blast node is deleting all those guys. Now, how is it knowing to delete those specific guys? Well, if we expand this, you can see it's saying delete primitives from 10 to 16. Let me preview from 10 to 16. From 19 to 25, and from 64 all the way to 70. And the dash here tells Houdini to increment up to this point. So it deletes these guys, and so on and so forth. Well, that's great. What if we take this and let's extrude it upward? And let's move this guy up. And this is the extrude node. I want to output back because this is, or actually let's leave it like that. I want to give these guys some thickness, so I'm going to create another extrude node. Hit tab, type in extrude, and use the poly extrude node. Connect that by dragging the wire from here to here, and let's expand this and tick on output back. Now these guys have some thickness. Great, now we've made some walls for this house. Let's create another box. Okay, let me template this, and I'm gonna move this box out. And let's extend it. Something like that. And let's create a Boolean node, and this is a new addition in Houdini 16. It's a very, very powerful node. So I'm going to create a Boolean between these two guys. Okay, that gave me that geometry. Let's change it to subtract. I want to remove everything in there. Cool. So we have something like that. Now, I'm happy with the result. I like what I have. But now I want to make that awesome video where I change everything and it automatically changes the result. Now here I'm viewing the mesh with the wires right now. I can change the display, so I'm going to choose flat shaded so it doesn't show me any wireframes. I'm also going to create a null node which doesn't do anything, but when you have this null selected and you accidentally hit enter in the viewport, it's not going to change or give you any manipulators. But if you were to select anything that has manipulation or a display, it's going to change. So let's view that, and let's go back now to the original grid and change it. Okay, great, it's working perfectly. Let's scale it down. You can see the boolean is working perfectly as well. Great, everybody's happy. But let's change the number of rows. Let's change the viewport display to flat wire shaded so we see the wireframe, and we started off with this much, 10 and 10. Okay, let's change this to 10 and 11 and 10. And as soon as you do that, something strange starts happening. Okay, and it's not the center anymore. It's only deleting a fragment of that. Now, why is that? Well, the reason for that is because remember we had this blast node that was deleting polygons based on their number, and now because we increased that, the number of all the primitives is now different. So this delete is only deleting this section. But luckily we changed the geometry, and it's still realistic, but it's not expanding, it's not working properly anymore. And this is one of the major problems that you have to work with. You have to come up with a solution that does not rely on primitives number at all, which can be very, very hard. So for example, if we wanted to make the deletion dynamic, we would use something else. We would use a delete node which has a bounding box feature. So let's connect that. I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to go under the bounding volume. Okay, let's view this node and tick on bound, and this, you can see, it creates a box, a blue box. So I'm going to middle click here, and this will change all the three attributes. I'm going to scale it. Okay, and let's move it to the center. And let's delete only, so let's scale it in. Cool, so now we're deleting only the stuff that is in there. And this node is independent. It doesn't have to know anything about the primitives. So I'm going to connect that, and now our tool is working back again. And let's take a look at this. Let's change the primitive number, and you can see it's working. There is a jump there because the deletion is still not precise. So we have to find a way that knows exactly to select one edge surrounding this polygon, okay, no matter what. So this is one of the major issues that we have to think about whenever we create a fully procedural solution. Now, this is not the intent of this workshop. We're going to have specific things. We're going to create a lot of procedural tools for creating pillars and arches and things like that, but we're not going to be fully focusing on having 100% procedural system where you change a slider and everything expands. Now, the other thing is that a lot of you guys don't. Let me change this back to 10. And let's use this guy. Now this mesh is very, very heavy, so changing the input it quickly recomputes. But if the mesh was a lot heavier, let's say 1,000 by 1,000, you can see already that it's a lot heavier to process. And now changing a single input would take a lot of time. You can see Houdini here is doing the cooking of the mesh. And everything is going to be much, much slower now. And imagine we have tons of these things dynamically updating. It's going to take a lot of compute time to to generate that. So basically what I want you guys to understand from this video is that not everything in Houdini has to be 100% procedural, where you drag something and it's generating tons of new things. We wanted to create specific solutions to specific problems, and if we need to design a tool which would be something much more complex, would take more than this workshop. Let's say if we wanted to design a tool for making buildings and things like that, we'd have a lot of small problems that we need to create a procedural system for. But again, in this workshop is going to be a mixture, and hopefully with all this knowledge, it will give you guys the ability to create all kinds of procedural systems, as well as achieve one design with very little proceduralism to it, but it's still flexible. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next video.